Good.
Good, okay. Good afternoon. It's 1:32 p.m. on Monday, May the 9th, and we're calling the Real Property Committee meeting to order. Would like to acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Next order of business is approval of previous meetings minutes from April 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, edits, or anything from anyone? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next order of business is citizens' comments. And I think we do have at least one citizen's comment. So if,
Matthew Lem.
right, okay. Yes, sir. If you just come up and identify yourself and go
Yes.
for it.
Thank you very much. My name is Matthew Leard, and I'm here to represent the Veterans of Fort Moore, Post 3137 down on Front Beach. Last year, a couple of our auxiliary members came in here and started out the process to get some accommodations money approved. And I just wanted to give you all the update on what we did with your money, along with a little bit of our money. One of the things that we have identified was a problem with the walkway area. And I don't know if Desiree, if you could put one of the pictures up. But anyway, a lot of people just don't realize that that piece of property is actually owned by the VFW. It is not, the Windjammer actually takes over at the wooden walkway going out there. The problem that we had, and this is one of the original photos right here, if you see, we had a 4-foot wide walkway through there. It made it very difficult for people pulling wagons and wheelchairs to go back and forth. The other thing it did is because of the way the timbers were structured in there, whenever it rained, we had a ton of rain, and then people would try to tiptoe across the top of the timbers, you know, to not get their feet wet. So when we got the $15,000 that was appropriated to us, we thought, well, what way can we spend this money and it benefit not only the Post, but the general public? And we came up with this particular project right here. So we had David Tomlin, a landscape architect, come in and design this. And then Pleasant Places actually bid it and did the construction of it. It was about a $60,000 project. And as you can see, it's paver stones, which are similar to what y'all have used, I believe, down at the rec center and other places. And these paver stones are permeable. So that means that any water will just flow right through them and go down into the ground. We are having a grand opening ceremony, which all of y'all have been invited to on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday at 11 o'clock. We will cut the ribbon and actually have some speakers there. And we're looking forward to that event. And I just wanted to come and thank y'all for, you know, allowing us to have some accommodation money to be able to do that project.
Okay. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matthew.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll see you Saturday.
All right, great.
Rusty's buying the drinks.
All right, item number 4, Marina tenant comments. We don't have any of the tenants here today, so we'll go on to old business. 5A, update on Marina dock rehabilitation project. So, Desiree, anything to update us on?
This project is 99.99999 complete. Everything that had to be installed has been installed, tested. We're really just waiting on two major, not major, but two final punch list items. One is receiving back the paperwork from DHEC on the water, potable water system. It's been used, it works fine. We just need to get that final permit from DHEC. And we also want the Water and Sewer Commission to do one final test of the pump out station. Again, it's fully functional, connected and everything. We just, the contractor and the Water and Sewer Commission wanted to do one final test. Two items that are still, that are expected this month to arrive are the two windows of the fuel HUD. And once they arrive, they will be connected. So we're starting the closeout process with that project. And I'm guessing that this and the next item on the agenda won't be necessary to include in a follow-up meeting. Because at this point, we're just wrapping up paperwork and such.
Okay. Any questions? comments?
Couple. So do you, once Water and Sewer Commission gets through with the tank, does DHEC have to come back out and do any testing with that?
No, sir,
So we're done, just water.
just
And
water.
I'm assuming we passed our water samples.
Yes, we did, both of them.
Perfect. Are we still, we got some punch list items. So I'm assuming we're still not paid the contractor 100%, or at least we're holding the retainage
That's
until
right.
that's done.
That's correct.
And
10%
last question,
retainage.
what's that?
10% we're holding back.
And last question, you had mentioned that they were doing as-builts.
Mhm.
Have they been done? And we,
They haven't been completed yet.
okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Katie, anything?
No, good.
Okay. Very good. Item B, update on Marina Restaurant renovation by Marker 116 LLC.
Well, as you can see, they're fully done with the construction. They have plans to open this week. They have been doing some events in the past few days, testing some of their equipment and their point of sale system. We are, from our end, we are coordinating a final inspection, a final walkthrough with Insight Group, who is the third-party assessment group that we hired, and we've been working on them to make sure that all the construction was done according to the permits, according to the plan that was approved by council. So we're in the process of scheduling that and getting them inside and comparing essentially final as-built with the permit. So that's all we have on that. Very excited about the activity, I guess, that we've already seen over the weekend at the restaurant, and I know that the community is certainly eager to.
Well, the three of us certainly took advantage of it over the weekend.
Just
I know
for,
we were out
just
there.
for a little bit, a few minutes.
Yeah, that was, it was a lot of fun. I tell you, it was so well received. I think, people were so excited in the community. All word of mouth when they opened at 3 o'clock to 8 on Saturday, I think it was, and served burgers and hot dogs and fries. And of course, adult beverages or anything else you wanted, but it was just good to see and so well received, I think, by everybody that attended.
Yeah, lots of fun.
So it will be good to get that
Off
Get
the
that
list.
open. All right.
What are we gonna talk about in the next meeting?
I know.
I'm sure something will get added.
Yeah, yeah. Item C, update on proposed public dock and green space at the Isle of Palms Marina.
We talked about this last month, how we, based on the timing of the year and where we are currently, and then the assessment of the bulkhead, we're looking at a construction date, start date of after the season, in order to avoid and minimize any disruption to the area. We've executed the contract with Davis and Floyd for the assessment of the bulkhead. We still don't have a certain date for their completion of that report. That will tell us again how the bulkhead is functioning and whether or not there's any unnecessary fixes that need to be included for the bulkhead as part of our green space plan. Good news, though, on as we talked about earlier, we're seeing a lot of activity at the public dock. People are taking use of it. We've completely finalized the schedule for what we're calling the Isle of Palms Explorer Series. This is the partnership between the city and Coastal Expeditions for several outings during the month for Isle of Palms residents, so that they can explore IOP and learn more about the community they call home. We've created a page on the website, so you can see for people to book. Why don't you go back, Amy? Go to the main page. The first tab at the top, there you go. And hit back, the arrow. There you go. So this is going to be the landing page, and if you can scroll down, keep going. Here are the 6 itineraries. The first one will be May 20th. May 29th will be the second one. And then you have 2 for June and 2 for July. They're all different dates of the week, different times, so that we can, make it accessible for different types of folks at different times of the day. different themes. So folks will be able to go to this landing page, click reserve and book their spot. Residents and property owners will be expected to provide proof of residency and proof of ownership upon arrival. There are going to be groups of 15 for each outing. They need a minimum of 6 to be able to run the tour. And the city is going to be paying for that for Palms residents. So we're very excited about it. An article regarding this or sort of an ad is going to come out at the next edition of the Island Eye News so that people know about it, and we'll certainly share it through social media as well. The departure location will be the public dock, and our goal is to use this opportunity as a way to introduce this new amenity to the residents of the island.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
Yep. And you're right. I mean, that dock is getting utilized more and more. I mean, you go down there, pretty much every day now, there's someone, at least one person or more down there, so it's being utilized. So people have discovered it.
Well, in addition to this, we continue to have meditation classes on Thursday mornings, and that's being used. At least 2 or 3 people show up every week, which is very nice. As we go along, we'll continue to maybe identify other initiatives and other programs to offer through this amenity.
Okay. I did want to bring up one other subject here too. As you are aware, Desiree, and I think the others on the committee, we got a communication over the weekend, I guess it was, in regards to the handicap parking spots down at the public dock. And I want us to talk about that a little bit because I thought it was a reasonable request that was made, to get those 2 spots that are right there near the walkway and get those designated as for handicapped or disabled. I went down and looked at it myself too. It's pretty firmly packed down there. It's not anything that's a real slip hazard, I don't think. And if we could get those designated, that would be great. And there's also a recommendation that maybe we could utilize some of the Moby mat to go from the handicap parking spaces over to the dock itself, the walkway.
So I had a meeting with the department heads this morning, and we talked about that. The police department is ordering some signs so that we can designate the 2 that are closest to the public dock. We'll see if we have any on hand. We don't think we have, but they were going to check our inventory, and if not, they'll order it and install them. So we'll be able to, once they're here, if we have any, or if we have to order them as soon as they get in, they'll install them. The Moby mat, we did not talk about that, and I can take that back and see whether or not that's feasible. Certainly an idea. I'm not sure operationally how that would work, but at least we can go ahead and designate 2 spots along it wouldn't be the ones that are along the bulkhead. It would be the ones that are along the fence that separates between the 2 parking areas.
Right.
That we can do.
Yeah. Okay. And if we could check into the Moby mat, that
Yeah,
would be good.
I'll write it down and talk to the staff and see
Okay.
whether or not that's feasible.
Any other comments?
Are there other restrictions that go along when you designate it as a handicap parking? Like that it has to be a certain,
With,
but like the surface, doesn't it?
there are, in sort of the inclusion of additional handicap parking spaces is contemplated in the plan that Davis and Floyd drew up. But that will only be installed when the public green space is completed at the end of the month. At the end of the year by the fall. But in the meantime, I guess, we're limited in what we can do, honestly, other than just designated.
That's my concern, is that there's a certain expectation when you say that it's handicap parking, that it is going to have the right slope and it's not going to have gravel and it's not, there's, I believe the expectation goes up from what just a normal parking spot would be. So I don't want us to get in trouble by saying it's handicapped, but not having it in,
Fully compliant.
yeah.
It want, and I think I've said this, it's not gonna be ADA compliant. It can be reserved for handicapped folks, but it's not gonna be ADA compliant until we can, again,
In that case, I think we might need to get some advice on this, because I think once you put those signs up, you're advertising it, you're telling the public that it is ADA compliant. I think, I could be wrong on that, but I feel like we should get,
I'm not sure.
we
I
should-
mean,
We talked a little bit about the same concern.
Yeah.
And our intention would be to just reserve it. Not, and I don't know what signage could say, not compliant, but reserved. You know, and I guess from our standpoint, something is better than nothing, and we're hopeful that people will be understanding it's a temporary. We are gonna have them ADA compliant after the season, but that in the meantime, it would be better to have them just reserved and spatially close to the dock as opposed to, just kind of on your own.
Right.
So it's a good point. And I think as well as we could come up with, would we just say reserve? Maybe that indicates to some degree, we acknowledge it's not compliant. And we know that people will scrutinize it, I guess, but I think we hope that we can explain, hey, we're trying to do as best we can with what we have in the meantime, and we think it's better to market as reserved than to not do it.
Be much like what they have in the Harris Teeter parking lot, where you have the signs up for veterans, the mother and child.
Right.
Yeah, those kind of things. It would be something that's a little more informal, but most people will look at that and say, well, I shouldn't park there. That's reserved for that type of shopper. So,
that's really all we can do at this point for
until
the
it's
summer to
fully-
facilitate that.
Fully improved.
so they won't be standard handicap parking.
Well, I don't know that we've completely figured out how to perfectly thread the needle of what we're describing, but I think in the meantime, the most accessible signs are gonna be the ADA signs, but maybe we can work on an
A
alternate.
different
that says
signage.
Reserved for, people with mobility challenges or something. Yeah, or just put some kind of disclosure
Mhm.
below it or something. Maybe, yeah, sign, not future
Handicap.
site of something.
Yeah.
But again, I think we're thinking that something is better than nothing for the next few months while we're in this limbo.
Okay.
I mean, again, and I agree with that, except for unless it puts us on the hook for, somebody comes, a handicapped person comes and parks there and gets hurt because it's not properly, graded and everything else. And they say, well, the sign is a handicap sign. I mean, that
Yeah.
That
We have- The
is-
city has been through being, it's been brought to our attention that we had ADA deficiencies. And ultimately, it resulted in us being ordered to bring it up to compliance. And I think in this situation, we're kind of working as quickly as, in my mind, and I guess we'll run, right?
Mhm.
The worst thing that will happen is we'll be made to bring it into compliance.
Which we're already
which
planning
we're
to do.
planning to do. But is on the flip side, we almost could get into trouble for not having anything down there, right? I don't know. In my opinion, we haven't triggered the need to do it yet, because we have not changed those lots. Once we start changing them, we start improving them, then the need to do that will come into play. I don't think that we've triggered the requirement to have to do it yet, but the council's made it clear that you all want to kind of do everything you can to help those challenges. So we're just trying to fulfill that kind of obligation. I don't think legally the requirement to do it is triggered.
because we haven't done anything to the lot itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Good.
Okay. Item D, update on the ADA beach access improvements.
Yeah, sure. So I shared with you all news from the county this morning that our project for 34A had been approved. This is a cost-sharing project between the city and the county using Greenbelt funding to construct an ADA compliant boardwalk at 34A with the inclusion of 2 handicap parking spaces along Home Boulevard. So like I mentioned, the next step will be for us to draft up an RFP, bid it out, secure a contractor, and then issue a notice to proceed for the fall for the construction. So really good news there. Our beach wheelchair, bleh. Say it 3 times. Huh? Beach wheelchair program is very popular at public safety building. It's just something that we continue to advertise. Our beach shuttle project is starting at the end of the month, in Memorial Day through Labor Day. And as you all know, it's coming from Mount Pleasant to Front Beach. And we are including in the advertisement of that project the availability of handicap beach wheelchair. So I think that the use and the demand for that project and that program will only increase as we approach the summer.
And the Greenbelt Award was $120,000, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good job, Douglas. You made that presentation, didn't you?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No,
All
great
right,
news.
it sure is. All right, item E, consideration of noise control agreement with Marker 116 LLC. So let's talk about that.
All right, in the packet, I included the section of the city code that talks about noise and the current prohibition and regulations surrounding loudspeakers or amplifiers. Section number 3 talks how any city-owned property subject to a commercial lease and noise control agreement would be exempt from the requirements of that paragraph. So they, and this really is very narrowly, it's narrow and it only applies to the restaurant and it potentially for the marina. But right now it would only apply to the restaurant, which is in the city-owned property at the marina. This is something that we talked about last year at length, and the committee actually approved the original version of that document. But since then, the owners of the restaurant wanted to have an opportunity to suggest some changes to it. They did send it to us during the holidays, and that was completely my bad. In my mind, I was looking at the minutes and I saw that the real property committee had approved of it. It has never been approved by city council, and it requires city council approval. So what you are seeing in front of you all is the I call it red lines, but they're in blue, is the recommendations or the recommended changes from the restaurant. And essentially, when you look at page 2, essentially the difference between the original version and what they're proposing or what they're requesting is that all 3 conditions included here under subsection C, which I don't know if you're all following me.
Right.
Subsection 3. The original version included, essentially established that any of those conditions, if any of those conditions had been met, then the tenant would be required to lower the volume of the noise. Their changes essentially establishes that all 3 conditions must be met before they can go ahead and lower the sound levels from the restaurant. And it also includes that complaints needed to come from 3 different separate residences. I guess they are concerned about just one property owner, one neighbor constantly calling and complaining, and that being the trigger. So, certainly the committee will discuss this. My concern from regarding these suggested changes is that it really elevates the threshold by which they would need to make any correction to sound levels. And it creates, again, just more conditions need to exist in order for them to then correct. Whereas before it was, I guess, more strict, and or it gave the residents a little bit more flexibility for complaints being made and then the police department interfering and then hopefully finding some correction. There's a long, long history between the city, adjacent property owners back when Morgan Creek Grill was there. Actually, part of those discussions, that's what created this noise control agreement, sort of as a compromise between the city, the tenant, and the property owners. And then one thing that resulted from those conversations was the creation of that band shell that you see on there in the property, which this group is maintaining. However, this new restaurant has speakers in a lot of the, their outdoor areas. They have more bars. They have bars that are facing the intercoastal. They have again, the bar that you see in what used to be the sandpit area. So the conditions for noise, I think, are larger than what they used to be for outdoor activity, if anything. So I'm presenting to you what they have presented, and this would need to go before city council for approval so that they can operate some loudspeakers or amplified music.
So it's only speakers, music speakers. It's not just like noise. Right? I
Well,
mean,
they're-
like, if there was just a whole bunch of people down there being really loud, that wouldn't trigger this, right?
Well, they
That's
have.
my reading.
Yeah, it would, because the way that our noise ordinance, I mean, anybody can complain from noise. So that could still happen. What the correction would be if there's just people talking and being loud, that would be up to the officer responding to the complaint. But this is specifically about operating amplified music and loudspeakers. But they're required to comply with all sections of the city's noise ordinance regardless.
But amplified, so, I mean, just general loud noise. Is that covered in here? I mean, other than amplified music?
No, this is about,
This is
Just about
Amplified
amplified
music.
music only.
yes, sir.
And there's no time, doesn't depend on the time of day either.
No, any time of day.
Any time of day.
Yes, sir. That's how the noise ordinance reads today.
So you're saying it reads tenant will be on notice that sound levels are too high if any of the following situations occur.
Correct.
So I kind of read it that if any of
Then it
these,
has ands.
But then
Yeah.
it-
So
they,
that's-
they added the and.
Yeah, so you
um,
need to take out the end.
Well, if you want to create, I mean, it goes both ways. If you want to establish a threshold to be, all of these conditions need to exist before they consider lowering the sound level, then you keep the and then change the language on section C. But that means that if one of those conditions don't exist, then we really sort of limited ourselves and able to bring about change to correct a noise complaint.
So this document before the blue, is this what was in effect with the old Morgan Creek
Yes, ma'am.
before the blue?
Mhm.
And what was how did that work? I mean, was it successful? Was the restaurant happy with it? Like, I'm wondering why we're, why the need to change it if they were using it and it was successful. What's, other than,
Well,
making it a little bit.
I think it's their attorneys who made these changes, correct?
Yeah, they saw the original document and said that we want our attorney to see it. They saw it, he saw it and then brought forward these recommendations. After, when the Morgan Creek situation was happening, the creation of that band shell and the criteria spelled out in this noise agreement did help. I mean, the complaints subsided significantly. And it was a long process that the city and the tenant and the property owners participated. So, I don't think any changes are necessary. I think that I, I don't know. I mean, I think that the residents in that area, I guess, would be concerned by these changes potentially, because again, it creates a higher threshold by which they can make some corrections to the noise should any issues arise.
Yeah, the way this reads, I mean, if you just had one or two residents close by complaining, that would not trigger the threshold to do anything, right?
That's correct.
Have to be at least three. And once we had the fix in for the band shell or whatever, and I wasn't on council then, but I mean, that pretty much all the complaints ceased at that point, right?
Mhm.
Because that was a fix, so to speak. None of that was across the waterway, I think, where across the creek.
Yeah.
Where most of the complaints were coming from.
And I think from intercoastal court as well. I guess it depends on how the wind's traveling. You know, when we were going through the restaurant negotiation process, I recall the new owners talking about sort of acoustic music being the only thing that they were anticipating having outside. If that's the case, then, you know, I think that the changes are not necessary. I think
Right.
that in and of itself serves as a way to mitigate potential issues, but it's going to be up to you all.
And you need some action from us today,
Yes,
recommendation.
because the agreement that you all approved last year was the original version, sort of the same document that Morgan Creek Grill had. If there are any changes, it would have to go through the, you know, that's why we're introducing them to the committee now, but ultimately council has to
Council has-
approve.
But if we make a recommendation, would we make the recommendation, if we say, okay, let's stick with the original noise ordinance agreement, then full council would not see the blue line here, right? The edits.
We can share both, but, and then we can share both and then just
I
indicate
think we
what your
should.
recommendation
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
Because it's just,
Yeah.
it's just our recommendation.
I
so.
think our recommendation should be that we, you know, bring forth the noise agreement, but also call out the blue line recommendations from the
Yeah.
tenant. Good?
But we still need to recommend going back to the original or not.
Sticking with the
Sticking
original. Okay. And I've had a couple of people ask about the noise control agreement. I know, like, neighbors. So I'll just give them an opportunity. This is already publicly available through the website. But giving the residents that were involved in the issues with Morgan Creek Grill and ultimately the development of this document, I'll let them know so that they, if they want to have an opportunity to chime in, they have it.
So are we square on the recommendation?
So, I mean, I'm just, there's parts of this that I am okay with, and then there's parts that I feel are, I mean, like the last paragraph, or the paragraph numbered 2,
Mhm.
I feel like that is, like, the wording of that is more reasonable. Because in the original format, it's basically saying, like, you get one complaint and we can shut you down if we want to. Or we can, you know, terminate this agreement if we want to, so. I guess I have a hard time accepting all or nothing on this
Well,
one.
I guess we just have to define continuously and repeatedly, you know, what's the set threshold there? Is it more than once or more than once the same
Right,
weekend?
and that would be, I feel like that, the paragraph above that says more than 3 notice from the city. Or I assume that's
In a
supposed to be
month.
police, not policy. In a month, I mean, something like that would make sense for 2.
well, I make a motion that we take the original noise agreement to city council for discussion and also call out the request from the tenant to modify the noise agreement. Okay,
Second. Second.
any other discussion? All right. All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 No one opposed? Okay. That good? All right, no new business. Wow, no new business on real property.
Y'all are solving
I
everything.
know. Number 7, miscellaneous business, and that's only our next meeting date, which will be 1:30 PM on Monday, June the 6th. Is that good for everybody?
Yes,
It is. Motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. I'm with you. I think it's,
Some
I think,
little things that could be changed. I mean,
think this needs to change